In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the name of duty for the safety and protection of others. And in honor of this day, National Police Week, our guest this morning is Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley. After graduation from Bowden High School, Sheriff Langley began his law enforcement career as a radio operator with the Bowden Police Department in 1980, where his father Burl was chief. In 1981, he became a deputy sheriff with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office under Sheriff Hugh Lee Lambert. He was promoted through the ranks to sergeant of the Uniform Patrol Division. He was later appointed to sergeant in the Criminal Investigation Division under Sheriff Jack T. Bell. In 1995, he was appointed as deputy warden for the Carroll County Prison, which provided the opportunity to hone his skills. In 1996, he was appointed as interim sheriff to fill the vacancy of Sheriff Jack T. Bell, who had resigned to run for chairman of the Board of Commissioners. Bell was elected chairman. Sheriff Langley was elected in 2001 and is currently in his sixth term. He's a graduate of the Georgia Police Academy and the 2000 Georgia Sheriff's Elect Academy and the 2002 National Sheriff's Institute. He's married to Cynthia. They're celebrating 38 years. They have 2 daughters and 3 grandboys, and they live in beautiful Burwell. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning. Glad to be with you.
Well, thank you for coming in. We thank you for coming in, particularly today. This is a special day that we wanted to recognize, as we recognize all those who serve with the badge and the uniform. Bring us up to date on particularly the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. How is it this day in 2023? And for instance, how's recruitment going? What's the status of your Sheriff's Department?
Well, it's coming along. Ever since the pandemic, hiring has really changed. I think, not only in law enforcement but everywhere. Mm-hmm. But we still have several openings, particularly in our jail division. And but we've worked very hard. Most of our law enforcement positions are filled at the time. We may have a couple of vacancies. That was a huge issue a few years ago, but now we are really looking for good people, men and women, who want to make a career in law enforcement. And I tell you, the Board of Commissioners, Michelle Morgan and the Board of Commissioners have done a great job. We've got a great benefit package. Now a jailer can start over $40,000 without any experience. First day, $40,000.
That's historic.
That's historic.
It used to be down high 20s.
Oh, yeah. And so it's a good way to start out, to get you, if you have no experience, to start out in the jail. And then if you want to further your career, of course, you can move on up to patrol after a few years. We certify you. We train you. You also get accustomed to dealing with other people. And a lot of these people that are in jail, you're going to come in contact with if you become a deputy as well.
Benefits, I assume, of some sort?
Yes, you can be in 2 retirements, the county officer's 401k and a 457, but also you can be now, thanks to our legislature, the jail officers, after being certified, can also participate in a retirement called the Peace Officers and UATN Benefit Fund. So you can participate in 2 retirements.
If someone's thinking about applying, what kind of background, if any, do they need? A criminal justice degree? Do they need college? Do they need some sort of, what would be a good background to apply?
Well, we have several that do have college degrees, but that's not the minimum requirement. The minimum requirement right now to go to work for us is to be 18 years of age, a high school diploma or a GED, a driver's license, a clear driving record, and no felony convictions. And from that point on, of course, we're going to do a background check, look at your job history. There'll be a voice stress test and those kind of things. So it's a lot to do, but the requirements are just 18 and a high school diploma and no criminal record.
Do you give preference to homegrown applicants?
Absolutely.
Carroll Countyans?
Absolutely. I'm homegrown. Somebody gave me a chance 40-something years ago, and absolutely.
wanted to ask you about morale. You know, it was not two, I guess, 3 years ago in 2020, we saw 574 riots across the nation. 23 officers were killed, and we began the defund the police movement. What kind of morale does law enforcement have these days as we come off of that and we come off of COVID?
It's coming better, but there was some dark times over the last few years. And what really upset me personally, I mean, it affected everybody, including me as well, and was disappointing, is that some police would do something crazy somewhere, and they painted us all with the same brush.
Well, I understand there are like 800 plus thousand law enforcement officers in America. Is that right?
That's probably right.
So, I mean, you know, 2 or 3, 4 bad apples, you would expect it.
Well, and what the work we've done around here, we got good police chiefs here. Police reform started a couple of decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of decades ago, we started more training for officers, training in use of force, community policing, how to talk to people, de-escalation tactics. We've been doing that for 2 decades. So some of them that are critical of police wanted to bring that up and say, we need more training. We need that. We've been doing that here for a couple of decades. Police reform started here about 20 years ago. We're certified at the sheriff's office. We're state certified on our policies, how we deal with complaints, how our hiring process, and the city of Carrollton and the city of Villa Rica is also state certified. So we're proud of what we've done.
With that said, now I'm talking to more and more people in Metro Atlanta that want to move out here because, you know, they're concerned about crime, the congestion, et cetera, et cetera. So what's your thoughts about more Metro Atlantans moving out to Carroll County among the farms and the cows and the chickens and the goats?
Well, you know, Carroll County is a great place, and I'll have to say the support the citizens give us out here is fantastic. And I welcome anybody if they're going to obey the law. If they're not going to obey the law, go somewhere else and break the law. But we welcome anybody, and we want to have the kind of atmosphere and quality of life issues to attract people. At the same time, I'm not big into growth. I'm not going to say I can stop it. I like some of our small town stuff we have. Much of it's gone. So, you know, it's managed growth. The commissioners have a tough job. We're going to grow, but you got to manage it to the way that we don't lose the quality of life that we have. So we welcome anybody if they'll come out here. It's a great place. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world.
Before we go to break and we go off this topic, I'd like to get you to mention, as we talk about Police Week, about the families of law enforcement officers. What kind of sacrifices, what kind of things do they go through being married to a cop or a deputy?
Really the unsung heroes are the families of these officers, because they work. Many of them have secondary jobs as well. They work odd hours. They work on many cases. My wife can tell you she's been married all these years to a law enforcement. I was a patrolman when we first married, and then I went into investigations. And what we try to push forward to our people is give us 100% at work, but go home. Give 100% with your family as well. It's so important. Divorce rate is high, very high among. Alcoholism is high. Suicide is high in law enforcement. Get away from it. Give 100%. Get away from it. Find something else to do, and don't neglect your family. Get involved with your church or whatever you like to do. When you're off duty, get away from it, because this thing will eat you up if you don't manage and have a balanced approach.
Our guest this morning is Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley as we mark National Police Week, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
As a believer in the power of education, we are called to set the standard by shaping and empowering the minds of future generations through quality education. Oak Mountain Academy embraces this philosophy, which is why my children attend this prestigious school. I am elated to serve on the OMA Board of Trustees, where together we prepare students and remind them to trust and believe in the power to transform the world. I'm Dr. Brian Bain, inviting you to celebrate our 60-year legacy of academic excellence. Visit us at oakmountain.us.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Raddick, your host. Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley is in studio, one of 4 constitutional officers in the great county of Carroll, correct?
Correct.
And we're marking National Police Week. Understand, and this is a whole topic really for a whole show, but let's jump into as much as we can on it. The Coweta Judicial Circuit has 7 counties. And understand you're supportive of breaking it apart so that Carroll and Herod have their own circuit, correct?
Well, it has 5 counties.
It has 5 counties, okay. So tell us how you would like to see it structured.
Well, for years I've advocated that the circuit is too big because of the tremendous amount of growth in Coweta and Carroll. And what it does in my business, it puts a tremendous strain on the district attorney's office as well as the public defender's office. Splitting the circuit, which I think is the best thing to do, would lower the cases and give more help to move those cases. So if you're a citizen here and you do happen to get in charge, you got a quicker time to have your day in court. It also will empty out the jail to some degree. So definitely, I think it definitely needs to be split, and I've said that for years. Matter of fact, I gave up on it because I think politics got involved, and I think, I've just got so many other things to work on and to try to do before I retire several years from now. But the circuit needs to be split. It's just too big. I was just thinking about the district attorney's office and the public defender, but I can't imagine being a sheriff in 5 counties. The staffing, the cases, and that. So it would lower the cases if you had a Carroll Herd. But listen, how they end up dividing it, I don't know. It needs to be split. A Carroll Herd, only thing I don't want to lose our judges. We got 4 great judges here in Simpson and Blackman and Tysinger and Hightower, and they do a great job. So, I think it should the right thing and the best thing for the taxpayers and the citizens of Carroll County is for the circuit to be split. Now, how that ends up, I don't know, but lower caseload, more people to work on the cases seems like a win-win to me.
Those 5 counties, since I can't count, are Coweta, Meriwether, Troup, and of course Carroll and Herd. So with this backlog, how does that affect investigations? Because if everything gets backlogged, then the investigation gets, I guess, somewhat cold. Or how do they work together, investigations and a backlog?
Well, it doesn't really affect the investigation part of it. It's the process in the case, jail population. Of course, in recent years, we've last couple of years, we've been able to do a good job with that. The court system has done a lot. There's been a lot of money put forward to get people out into other things, to get these. Since the pandemic, we've really come a long way in reducing the number of inmates in the jail. We're still over probably about 430 or 40.
What's the capacity?
It's about 600 probably.
Okay.
But before that, we were over 500 most every day for several years. So we are working on that. We're mindful of trying to bring those things down, and I think that splitting the circuit would only bring that down quicker.
But if the trial and the prosecution occurs quicker, then you're more likely to get a conviction, correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, you still got to have evidence, and you still got to prove a case beyond reasonable doubt. But what it will do is get it to court first, and I'm for that. I'm for a person having their day in court and either turn them loose or send them to prison.
Because otherwise they're sitting in jail.
Sitting in jail for, we've had some in the past sit there for years, and even if they're not on any medication, it's $46, $47 a day every day that comes out.
And they could be completely innocent.
And they could be. And I'd hate to know I stayed in jail 2 years and was found innocent.
Well, they are,
And there's been cases that's happened, but I would just rather have a speedy trial. Now, that's for those, particularly those that have committed crimes and have a history that they cannot make bail that stay in jail. A lot of people make bond and get out, and those are not really a drain on society as much as they are on themselves when a case is delayed. But those that are sitting in jail awaiting, and again, I'll have to say the last couple of years we've really chipped away at that, and the courts and the judges have worked well with us on that as well.
We see in the larger cities a movement toward ending cash bail and reducing some felony charges to misdemeanors. When you see and hear about that, what's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is this. And this kind of gets into the gun violence situation. And a lot of people want to say that what we need to do is control guns. What we need to do is control criminals. And so my thought is this, and this covers the question you just asked me. If a person commits a violent crime, they need to do an extended period in prison. Now, say they do burglary and they got a weapon. They ought to get a charge for that burglary, and then they ought to get an additional consecutive sentence for that weapon, and they stay in jail longer. We haven't done that nationally. We've plea bargained them down. People have really not paid extra by committing a crime with a gun. So we certainly... I think what we need to do is we need to keep people in jail that we're afraid of, and let the ones out that we're mad at that might have a chance at rehabilitation. And I think that's a pretty good number. But there's some people that need to stay in jail, and they don't need to make cash bond, and they don't need to make any kind of bail. But that's a small percentage, I think, overall.
You want to give a grade to the local DA's office? How are they doing?
I think they're doing great, and I tell you, of course, I take it case by case, and the case that really affected our officers and our office was Miss Barbara Gibson. It was murdered a few years ago. Matter of fact, the Saturday before Mother's Day 3 years ago, and that trial, I was really impressed with the district attorney's office. Of course, our officers done an unbelievable job, and conviction. But, there's times that we don't agree, but we're going to have those times. But I just think that and not only the district attorney's office, I just think they're overwhelmed with cases in 5 different counties, but the public defender's office as well. The public defender's office would, for those that cannot afford a lawyer, gets lawyers, is very, very important, just as important as the district attorney's office. So I tell the commissioners sometimes, you give the district attorney's office 2 employees, you need to give the public defender 2 employees, because they both balance the system. Mm-hmm. And so we need to keep the people in jail that we're afraid of, and we need to let go of the people that we're mad at, and give them a chance. And we do that in Carroll County with our drug court. Dusty Hightower does a great job, Judge Hightower, along with his other duties, handling drug court, giving people a chance, a second chance, that are not violent, that might get treatment and education.
The addition to the DA and to the public defenders, that's state funded, correct? Both of those, or just one of them?
Well, yeah, they're state funded as well as county funded.
Both.
The county puts in money too as well. So it's a mixture, but probably a lot of the money state funded, and those probably the most monies come from the state.
You mentioned Ms. Gibson out in the Mount Zion Burwell area. Tragic, horrible.
Yes, but we were able to get convictions, and just a wonderful lady. Didn't bother anybody, in her 80s, and just killed there.
She was preparing to take people presents.
Just a giving person, just a valued member of the community, and we
I remember you said she always kept a clean house.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, how horrible. Well, we had another horrible situation. I guess now it's just over 2 years ago when Deputy Repetto was shot in the arm. Officer Holloway was injured. And that was impactful upon all the law enforcement community here locally.
Absolutely. That was huge. All those officers are affected and will be affected from now on. It really shook our community. It shook people in the community. Where the final shootout happened out there off Villarica Road, it was in a lady's yard. Every anniversary she calls me about it and remembers hearing the shots, the officers. And so it's just a terrible thing. But it's a dangerous society that we're in now. And, you know, that's the reason we had 224 officers killed in America last year. Mm-hmm. And of them, 11 were from Georgia. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very dangerous society that we're living in now.
It's troubling. I mean, we've got Interstate 27, and we southeast corner borders Fulton County. I mean, we're awful close to it.
We are.
Our guest this morning is Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley, and we're honoring or marking National Police Week. Stay with us, and we're on Facebook Live also, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
I'm Michael Flynn, Oak Mountain Academy class of 1978.
Katie Flynn, class of 2010.
Justin Flynn, class of 2014.
Logan Flynn, class of 2019.
And I'm Marnie Flynn, current teacher at OMA.
My uncle Richard Owen Flynn, a founding father of Oak Mountain Academy, had a vision to see students become confident leaders who hold a faith-based value system in an academically rigorous environment. We are proud to celebrate 60 years of fulfilling my uncle's vision.
Our family invites you to visit the campus or oakmountain.us today.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Raddick, your host. We're honored to have in the studio Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley, one of four constitutional officers in Carroll County as we mark National Police Officers Memorial Day today. Well, we had a local summit recently on fentanyl. 100,000 deaths of men 18 to 44 every year in America. Chemicals come from communist China to the Mexican cartels, transported over an open southern border to Atlanta. How in the world, in your opinion, is this horrible thing of fentanyl affecting us in Carroll County?
It's affecting the whole country, and we're no exception. It's affecting us as well. Many of the overdoses we're having, we think, are linked to fentanyl, along with other drugs. They're mixing them. I hadn't seen this locally, but I need to check back with the coroner on it. But I also saw where some horse tranquilizer somewhere, they're mixing fentanyl with it. And, I just don't, it's so dangerous. It's something like 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. And it was created to help terminal cancer patients deal with, their pain and in the last days of their life. And then of course, the drug cartel knows what's, and those that on the evil side of things know what sells. And so then they add that to their meth, or they add it to heroin or what have you. And we're, I heard somebody quote the other day that they thought we were at one point recently averaging almost 100 overdoses a day in America from fentanyl, or fentanyl and other mixtures of other drugs. So it's just I don't know, it seems like you get one thing going and all of a sudden they find another thing.
So they say it's 100,000 plus deaths every year, which is somewhat equivalent to Vietnam losses, Gulf War losses. I think if you put Korea in there is somewhat comparable. But that's a real drain upon a society when their 18 to 44-year-old males are dying because of this.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the pain and the anguish of family members left behind, thinking what they could have done. And, it's just calls out for us more to work hard on education and enforcement and punishment, but particularly education. Because people don't know a lot of people are taking these drugs and don't even know what they're taking. But it's addiction. So we got a lot of work going on trying to let people know it's not the end of the world and there is hope to get treatment. So it's a big deal. And I'll tell you, of the people in the jail, probably the general theme, not all of them, but most of them, is substance abuse. Then they may have committed a robbery, they may have committed a theft, but they were on drugs. And alcohol's a drug too, one that we sometimes bypass.
Well, as we mark Police Officers Memorial Day, I think you want to reference a couple of the words said by one of radio's most legendary broadcasters, the Honorable Paul Harvey.
Yeah, the great Paul Harvey. We had, since they've been doing the National Monument in Washington, there's 23,785 names on it of law enforcement officers killed. And just a few years ago, I heard this, and somebody sent me a copy of it. The great Paul Harvey said, "A policeman is a composite of all men, mingled with saint, sinner, dust, and deity. Buried under the frost is the fact that less than 1% of police officers misfit the uniform. That's a better average than you'll find among clergy. He must be such a diplomat that he can settle differences between individuals so that each will think he won. He must make an instant decision which would require months for a lawyer to make. But if he hurries and he's careless, if he's deliberate, he's lazy. He must be the first on the accident and infallible with his diagnosis. He must be able to start breathing, stop bleeding, tie splints, and above all, be sure the victim goes home without a limp. The police officer must know every gun, draw on the run, and hit where it doesn't hurt. He must be able to whip two men twice his size and half his age without damaging his uniform and without being called brutal. If you hit him, he's a coward. If he hits you, he's a bully. A police officer from a single strand of hair must be able to describe the crime, the weapon, the criminal, and tell you where the criminal is hiding. The police must be a minister, a social worker, a diplomat, a tough guy, and a gentleman. And of course, he must have to be a genius, for he will feed a family on a policeman's salary."
Today, on National Police Officers Memorial Day and during this National Police Week, we would like to salute all officers who wear the badge and the uniform and thank them for keeping us safe. Please thank an officer this week, and we'd like to thank Sheriff Terry Langley for being our guest this morning. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.